Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Newsflash: unlike other countries, buying a business in Canada does not automatically guarantee you permanent residency, but it can be a viable pathway depending on your ultimate goal and what your expectations are out of the program. Will buying a franchise or setting up a branch of your own business overseas qualify you in Canada for permanent residency? What's the direct PR business program to Canada, anyways? How many immigration business programs are there out there? Because you see all these advertisements: C10, C11, intra-company transfers, self-employed, startup visa, Quebec immigrant, provincial nominee. We will answer these questions and more, cover all the programs for business and investment migration to Canada in the short live stream today, which one leads to PR, which one doesn't, which one may lead to a PR, and cost benefit analysis for all of our audience members who actually care what their money will get them and the final result, and not just throw money out there. Okay. Unedited, uncensored, no special effects, the exposed truth, just like the rest of our videos in our YouTube channel. No green screen. This is real stuff. Those are real pens and pencils. I don't use them a lot, but they're real. No special effects. Quick introduction. My name is Reza, founder of Ingway Immigration, and we help families, individuals, professionals, investors with various overseas cross-border investments, residencies, and citizenships. We have over 20 different programs in countries around the world, and our expertise is to customize solutions based on your needs, your specific profiles. Okay. That was a quicker introduction than usual. And of course, just to let you know, since it is a live stream, we will jump into our audience members' questions and comments right after a quick presentation and blurb about Canadian business immigration for permanent residency, or maybe not for permanent residency. And we'll demystify and do some myth busting on that. Okay. Let's start with the ABCs of business and investment migration. Okay. For Canada, there are two categories of business immigration in Canada. Two, not 10, sorry. Two. Temporary investor entrepreneur work permits that do not lead to PR. So we call those temporary immigration. And permanent immigration entrepreneur investor programs, which lead to PR. Direct path, or it leads to PR. You know it, it's a PR program. So we call it permanent immigration. Keep in mind, throughout this whole video or live stream, all of the prices or ranges of investments that I quote are in Canadian dollars, not USD, meaning it's around 35 to 36% less than the US dollar when I'm quoting everything here in Canadian dollars. Let's start with the first category, which we receive a lot of questions each week from overseas applicants, whether it's on WhatsApp or email or through the messages or phone calls that we get on consultations. Programs such as intra-company transfer, C10, C11, self-employed entrepreneur work permits offer you an investor work permit to start your business or buy a business in Canada, or even set up a branch of your business in Canada. Here it is in a nutshell. Intra-company transfer. You need to have two operational locations outside of Canada in two separate countries before you can qualify for this program now. Because end of last year, 2024, these programs changed eligibility, meaning that you should be considered a MNC, multinational. You don't need to be a billion-dollar MNC, but the definition according to the IRCC, which is the Immigration Department of Canada, means you need two different locations outside of Canada to qualify even before you apply. Operational businesses means having proof of financial statements, the expenses, revenues, and taxes you filed for each jurisdiction. So just having a company in Dubai or a shell company somewhere where you have no real activity, they won't actually consider that as an operational location. And if you have two locations in the same country, still that won't qualify you. After you qualify, and if you invest at least $250,000 or more Canadian, depending on the city where you want to be located in Canada, the population area density of where you want to plan. So if you go to a rural region, you might get away with 150,000. But if you go to a Toronto, Vancouver, Ottawa, 250 sometimes doesn't even get you through the door. Okay, like all programs in Canada, nothing is guaranteed in terms of the final result. If you qualify, you apply, and if you've got an amazing case, they could approve you. But if you don't, it's a tough one. This program will not lead to PR in any way in Canada, according to the 2025 regulations, and for the foreseeable future, until we have a more of a immigration-friendly government. It is not a permanent immigration program. Invest $250,000 or more, receive a 1-year work permit initially, and then 2-year renewal cycles after that, and you don't get a PR. So cost benefit, if PR is not your thing, no problem. If PR is a thing that you're looking for Canada, why would you invest that much money for just nothing? Next program on our list for temporary immigration is C10, C11, LMI exempt entrepreneurial self-employed program. So when I mean LMI exempt, these are labor market impact assessments, meaning that your business is hiring you as a foreigner, but you don't need to go through all that LMIA stuff, which is the permissions from the government to hire a foreigner instead of a Canadian. So meaning these are entrepreneurial self-employed. You start the business or buy a business. Okay, so you need to own more than 50% of the business that you're setting up or you're buying, let's say, or you're doing a joint venture. And if it has enough significant benefit, it can be approved. Okay, these are temporary work permits with limited renewals. You need to invest in Canada, bring significant benefit in terms of economy, culture, or society as a whole to Canada. You can utilize your own business overseas as a instead, in case you don't qualify for intercompany transfers, sometimes you can do the C10, right? But it's a new business, it's not a branch, right? It doesn't really qualify under the intercompany transfer. So you're just setting up a brand new business, even though you may have that business overseas. Doesn't matter. You can even buy a business. Again, you're investing hundreds of thousands of dollars and you'll receive short-term renewable work permits, and you will not in any way be able to receive a PR or apply for PR in Canada through this temporary work permit program for investors. And this is as of 2025 going forward, okay? Temporary immigration programs are like similar to like the E2 in the US or the L1A, if you're familiar. No direct path to permanent immigration, but only viable if you truly do not want to stay in Canada permanently, have no interest in permanent residency for you or your family. Then these are the programs to choose. We've done them a lot. We don't offer them as PR routes anymore. You can, of course, start franchises, your own business, a branch, any combination of these for temporary programs, as long as the officer is convinced, meaning the immigration visa officer, that the investment is significant and beneficial to Canada. So if you're doing a convenience store in Toronto or Vancouver and you're going to invest $250,000, good luck with that. And keep in mind, their standards are much higher than before. So if you had a cousin, a neighbor, a social media friend, somebody on WhatsApp that did this 4, 5, 6 years ago, and they literally had a business plan and $100,000 in the bank account and it worked, well, that's not going to fly anymore. Previously, this was possible, but as of 2025, these things are not possible. And folks, we're going to jump into the comments and questions soon. And I see a lot of questions on startup visa as well. And we're going to address those very quickly. Let's jump into the permanent immigration programs for business and investment in Canada. There's 3 major programs that lead to PR for business and investment migration. There is no other program that is active as of this moment to Canada for PR in the business immigration world. These programs are the Quebec Immigrant Investor Program, the Provincial Entrepreneur Program, and the Federal Startup Visa Business Immigration Program. Those are the 3. Unlike the previous programs we just covered, these are permanent immigration category programs. Okay, so you don't just get a random work permit and do a Hail Mary for a PR. These are specifically permanent immigration programs that lead to PR. Let's do a deep dive into these programs and figure out how you can start a business or buy a business in Canada with any of these programs and obtain PR status for you and your eligible dependent family members, meaning spouse, common law, and children, dependent children who are single under the age of 22. Okay. The Quebec Immigrant Investor Program. Okay, this has always been a very popular program previously, pre-COVID. may not be as popular today, and I'll explain to you why. This is a provincial program managed by the province of Quebec, and this is the only passive investment program that exists in the country of Canada that leads to PR. Besides the $200,000 donation and a $1 million loan to the Quebec government for 5 years, which is returned without gain or loss, you can also choose to finance with a one-time payment of around $350,000 Canadian to cover the 1 million loan. So meaning a financial institution in Quebec will loan the government based on your one-time payment of 350,000, and it depends on the prevailing interest rate at that time. And that's separate from the $200,000 donation you have to give to the government as well in Quebec. The processing is fast. However, the catch is you still need to have French language requirements of CLB 7, Canadian Language 7, to qualify. So it's not like you have to come and learn the language. You need French upfront to be eligible to apply. This was a change that recently came about in the past year. And yeah, we're hearing crickets. If you don't speak French, then this is not the program for you. The residency is simple. Since you will receive a preliminary work permit for you and your family members, you only need to spend 12 months in Quebec with the work permit and can share this time of 12 months with your spouse. So 6 months you can do it, 6 months she can do it, right? Or he and she, whatever, before the PR is processed. So you apply with proof of source of funds, you do the donations and contributions and loans. You get a work permit, you come in very quickly, you spend 6 months, your spouse spends another 6 months, then your PR can be processed. The whole work permit process can be wrapped up in 2 years, and your residency requirement before the PR can be done in as little as 12 months. Depending on the visa office where you apply, it can take around 12 months for those preliminary stages, South America, Western Europe, Africa, and after your PR, of course, you get a confirmation of PR. For applicants who don't speak French, this is not a viable option. But for applicants who do have French language skills, this is the simplest and most secure PR program in Canada. After you receive your PR in Quebec, you can live and reside permanently anywhere in Canada because, according to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada, no Canadian permanent resident or citizen can be geographically restricted on where they choose to live, work, study, or do whatever they want. So after the PR, you're free to move anywhere you like based on your personal and family preferences. Okay. So that needed French. There's a significant donation and investment or one-time payment or loan involved, right? So that's the passive program for Quebec, which leads to PR in Canada. Let's look at the provincial entrepreneur program. So all the other provinces don't have Quebec's program. They have active management programs, okay? So active management means you've got to run a business, start a business, buy a business. You can't just invest and put some money in the government and hope to get your PR, okay? There's 10 provinces in Canada, 3 territories and regions. We're going to cover the 10 provinces, okay? Because I don't get a lot of demand for people who want to go up in the North Pole. If you do, great, kudos to you. I respect that, but unfortunately, I have no idea how to run a business in the North Pole. Toronto and Ontario do not have any business immigration programs in place, and you'd have to look at federal programs instead. So the province of Ontario, where Toronto and Ottawa, there is no provincial program anymore. It's shut down over a year ago. All other provinces do have entrepreneurial provincial programs that are work permit to PR-based programs, meaning you can start a new business or buy an existing business after you've been selected and invited by the provincial immigration office because you're deciding to invest and start that business and run it in that province. So that's why you would select that province. When you are selected and invited to apply, it's called an invitation to apply, ITA. Whether you're selected or not depends on your age, education, language ability, English or French, ties to the province, business idea, and whether it's considered a priority industry, liquid funds you want to deploy for the business in Canada, how many Canadians you'll hire, total net worth, and your management business ownership experience. If you have less than 3 years of business management or business ownership with proof experience, don't bother applying. You will not qualify for any of the programs. Okay, 3 years minimum. Some provinces also have age restrictions, 55, not all of them. It is mandatory to complete an exploratory trip to the city province where you plan to apply and invest. And the provincial office will not issue any invitation letter for you to come and do that exploratory trip. You'll need to figure that out yourself. Get a visitor visa, or if you're from a visa exempt country, just apply for an electronic travel authorization to enter. After you're selected and invited, so this is after the exploratory trip, after you've put in your expression of interest into the provincial pool with your business concept and all your information, financials, and profile, they'll invite you for an interview and a net worth audit. So you got to do a net worth audit through a designated CPA firm that the province will introduce to you. They'll have a list, so you pick one, you pay for it, they do it, net worth, assets, whatever you've declared globally. They report back to the province. In that meantime, you submit all of your documents based on your expression of profile. So you said, I have all this, I have this money, I have this education, I have this management experience. Well, now you got to submit it before the interview. Okay. These 2 stages are mandatory, and there's no exceptions in any of the provincial programs that we're talking about in the entrepreneur PMP. The interviews are done in person. Okay. After these steps, you can apply for a work permit and run the business. So they approved you in the interview, went all smooth and nice. They were, you knew your facts, you knew your business, you did your research, all good. You need to follow exactly the business plan and performance agreement you submitted with the provincial office and run the business actively with your work permit in that city or region where you plan to start the whole thing or buy that business, right? You've got to spend 85% or more of your time in that province or region, specifically around the business, to run it. This is an active management program. You can't just say, oh, I started it 6 months, I'm just going to go back home for 6 months and come back. After either 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months of actively managing this operational business, you can submit your final documentation for nomination from the province. What is this nomination? It's a nomination certificate making you a nominee to apply for PR with the federal government. So after the provincial nomination, you can submit your permanent residency for you and your family members to the federal government. It will take about 18 to 24 months to get that. So you need to continue to run that business during the PR processing time as well. So you've got 6, 12, or 18 months to run the business. It'll probably take you about 8 to 10 months to get that work permit, preliminary interviews, net worth audits, and then another 2 years to get your PR. So you're looking at anywhere from 3.5, 4.5 years to get your PR. But if you're deciding to stay in the country with your family and you're not in a rush, well, this is good. You cannot be outside of the country, as I said, for more than 15% of the time throughout this entire process when your work permit is issued. If you want to spend time inside the country with your family, this is a great option. However, here's a little bit of a challenge now, because all the provinces are quite tight with their federal quotas. Some provinces, you will not get an invitation to apply. Okay. Most likely, like Alberta and Manitoba, I would not recommend. The Atlantic provinces are a little bit more friendly, meaning New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia. That's what I would select if I was you. I would avoid Alberta at the moment because they have over, I don't know, it's on their website. I think it was over 60 something people in their pool, and they're going to pick 4 or 5 this year. So what are your chances of being selected? Manitoba is also backlogged. BC is not bad if you want to really invest in a lot of money, unless you go for the rural program. Okay. But the Atlantic is probably our choice. Ontario, where Toronto is, has no program in place. Literally, there's no business investment program in Ontario. You have to go with a federal program like the Startup Visa program. So let's look at the third permanent residency immigration program in Canada for business owners or investors or entrepreneurs. It's the only federal PR business immigration program in all of Canada. Okay, so it's the only federal program that will give you PR based on a business or investment. It's a Startup Visa program, and I'm sure you've heard of it. Everyone markets it. You've probably read hundreds of articles or videos about it. Basically, if you are a co-founder of a startup that is innovative and will be endorsed by a designated organization in Canada, you can qualify to apply for your PR. So unlike the other programs, first you apply for permanent residency with the letter of support or that endorsement, with that being part of a qualifying business. Then you apply for an optional work permit. So it's completely different than the other programs. You apply for a PR, and then if you choose to, you can apply for work permit. You don't need to come to Canada. You can literally say, no, I'll stay back in my home country until the PR. So that's the flexibility. Plus, it can be 1 to 5 co-founders. So literally 5 families can be part of one startup business, which is, again, very different than the other programs. There's no points. There's no age restriction. There's no interview initially, right? So all you need is a Canadian language benchmark of 5 in English or French. You need some professional work experience. Could be technical, management, business. You need minimum settlement funds, medical check, police check, and you need to own at least 10% of a startup business that qualifies and has been endorsed by one of the incubators, venture capital, angel investors who are designated by the Canadian government as part of the startup visa program. The processing time in the whole thing can take about 3.5 years for the priority stream. There's a non-priority stream that can take over 5 years. The priority stream can process your PR quite quickly. Quickly in terms of Canadian standards, of course. And you do not need to enter Canada at any time. It's not mandatory. But if you choose to, you can opt for an optional 3-year open work permit to come and work on your business. And this is with the family until the PR. And this 3-year work permit is also renewable. Okay, so this is the only direct federal business immigration program. You cannot go to Quebec during that initial stage. It is the only province which is exempt from this startup visa program. You can be anywhere outside of Quebec, and then after you get your PR, you can move to anywhere you want. The investment, there's no strict regulations. You can invest anywhere from 200,000 to 50, whatever amount you want into your startup, whatever is required. So some people can get away with lower investment. However, there's fees and it's a pay-to-play arrangement. So you can always contact us and we'll give you the breakdown of the costs, okay? So what we did is that, stay back, country, we covered the 3 main business immigration programs for PR. And we also told you about intercompany transfer, C10, C11, self-employed entrepreneur work permits. And there's also bilateral agreements for specific nationalities that allow them to come with a work permit as an investor or professional business owner, right? You can buy a business, you can start a business, but it will not give you PR. With the permanent immigration programs, with the startup visa program, you can actually run businesses on the side too. So you're part of a startup, but at the same time, you run a franchise on the side. Maybe you're doing some real estate developments. Maybe you're flipping homes. Maybe you're starting your own consulting firm. Maybe you've invested in 10 other businesses in Canada. Under the startup visa program, it's possible. Under the provincial entrepreneur program, you can also have businesses on the side, but you cannot actively manage them because your work permit will be closed, not open. Okay. Under the Quebec immigrant investor program, you can do whatever you want. It's a passive investment program, meaning they just want your money and your eligibility. You can invest, not invest, watch Netflix all day long. It really doesn't matter. You could be like almost semi-retired. Really doesn't matter. Okay. So I hope I've given you some good insight. And remember, folks, if you're like, man, immigration is tough these days, and man, I wish it was 20 years ago. That was so easier, right? What I always say is the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And the second best time is now, because in 20 years from now, it's going to be even more difficult than it is today. And that's a fact. And if anyone wants to challenge me on that, I am happy to take on the challenge. Okay. So as you can see, folks, you got to pick the right program if you're looking for permanent residency in Canada. Picking just a random program for investors with work permits that does not lead to PR, you're literally shooting yourself in the foot. And your cost benefit, wow, that was a waste of money. And you'll figure that out later, unless you watch this live stream. The other 3 programs, each one has its own nuances. Each one has its advantages. I'm not saying the Quebec Immigrant Investor Program is better than the others. I'm not saying that the Provincial Entrepreneur Program or Star Visa is better than others. Each one is specific to specific profiles of applicants, depending on your goals, on your short and long-term goals, right? That's what it is. Let's get into some questions. And folks, if you want to engage with our office, make sure you fill out the form that we have the link below. Reach out to us. If you qualify, I can get on a call with you and we can go through it based on your specific program. Remember, we're not a sales company. We educate you, we give you the options, we guide you, then we help you make an informed decision. And we help you from steps A to Z, whether it's Canada, US, Panama, Spain, Portugal, Dubai, Cyprus, Greece, Nauru, St. Kitts Nevis, Grenada, Antigua, St. Lucia, you name it, we've got it. If it's in our portfolio, I believe in the program. If it's not, I wouldn't put my money there. I wouldn't take my family members to that program. Okay? Let's go. Let's look at the questions. And remember, we're here every Thursday, 11 a.m. North America Eastern Standard Time, which is the local time in Toronto, New York, Miami, Ottawa, Montreal, wherever, right? Michigan. Vilas Desai says, hi, Reza. I'm sure IRCC understands that 51 months wait time for start a visa is not realistic for innovators to sustain. Do you think that SUV is on its way out of the IRCC program? No, Vilas Desai. They will not shut down the program. They just want to make it less attractive. That's their technique because the government is not very pro-business oriented, okay? And the fact that they have not processed many cases in the last 7 months means automatically the algorithm which reports the IRCC processing time has been extended to 51 months. But if you do priority organizations, they cannot expect you to wait 51 months, okay? But they are pushing the envelope there. 4 months after responding with updated addresses and telephone numbers, there's total stoppage. Is the wait going forever? Hope RCC does something about this. September onwards, you will see traction in the start of visa processing. Dr. A32 of our audience members is asking us a question. Hello, Reza. Given that I have submitted my PR application under the start of visa program with a priority designated incubator, how best can I submit the work permit based on the acknowledgement of receipt might not come before the LOS expires? Okay, first of all, Dr. A32, you do not need a valid letter of support to apply for work permit. This rule changed recently. You can look it up. You do not need a valid letter of support. Second, you do not need to wait for the acknowledgement of receipt for the PR before you apply for the work permit. We have clients who have not received their PR acknowledgement of receipt, but we've applied for work permit and they have it. They're actually here already and they still don't have a permit file number yet. Okay, so hopefully, is it also advisable that one action the police report and medical checks ahead to save time? Well, you needed the police check for your PR application. You can utilize the same one for work permit unless there's a big gap, in which case you'd need a new police certificate, okay? Medical checks, if you're from a country that requires it for the work permit, yes, you need to, and they're valid for 1 year. So if you took it 6 months ago, it's still valid. Don't take it again. For the PR, they'll ask you later on for the permanent residency to take a medical again for your PR. Okay, SAN.M says, I love Canada. I visited a few times and it's heaven. Are you sure? No, I would recommend this free and human country, GL. Okay, good. I love everyone's comments and feedback. There's people who hate Canada, there's people who love it, and there's people in the middle who have no clue, right? We respect everyone's decision here because, as everyone knows, in some of my live streams, some people come in and they're really ticked off and they'll blurb about how it's really horrible. Okay, I respect that. And there's people who say it's heaven, like SAM. That's good. It's your personal opinion, and we respect that as well. And again, not every country is matching for everyone. It's not the best suited for everyone, right? Some other countries, maybe Portugal is better, or Panama, or Dubai, or wherever, right? Could be an ideal situation or scenario for a specific family. But maybe Canada is the right one for you, and maybe it's not. So that's great. Ali John says, applied under the startup visa in January 2025. Can you please clarify if the acknowledgement of receipt is required in order to apply for a work permit, or one can apply without it? I answered that, Ali, and I think you also, you do not need it. It is nowhere on the regulations or instructions. I have clients here who have a work permit and they're renewing their work permit and they still don't have a PR file number. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me how. That's what it is. Samvir Kumar. Hello, Reza. Hey, Samvir. Nice to see you again. Vilas Desai is saying, is IRCC picking applications for parents visa only from 2020 pool? Are they coming up with a new pool? As of today, they're still picking from the 2020 pool, Vilas Desai. Ali John says, what is the expected time frame for the acknowledgement of receipt in case of the non-priority DO? It's a tough one, Ali John. It's people can only speculate. It could be 8 months, it could be 12 months, it could be 16 months, it could be 18 months. It's so random. And by the way, I studied statistics and mathematics. That's my background. You would not be able to plot any pattern or trend. This is all over the place. I've seen people get it in 6 months. I've seen people get it in 2 years. So I cannot give you a clear answer, Alja. And to be honest with you, if you ask the Prime Minister of Canada, he would not also be able to give you any clear response, or the Minister of Immigration. They are clueless. Okay? No offense, and I have no political ties to any party on either side. I'm just saying, don't trust the politicians or the government. Safa Saleh says, hi, Reza. Great to see you. Likewise, Safa. Great to see you online again. Still waiting on the RCC decision. It's been a year since the pre-arrival letter. The global case management system notes requested. Project is ongoing, but honestly, we're starting to lose enthusiasm. Yes, Safa. That's what they want you to do. Lose enthusiasm. They haven't processed 98% of the cases since December last year. They're going to restart in September. So, Safa, wait between September to December this year, then make a decision. Do not make a drastic decision before the end of this year, because the processing and decisions will be issued. And like I said in my previous videos, they had a very low quota for this year. They had already processed and had everyone ready for decisions end of last year, right? And they would have rendered those decisions in the first quarter of 2025. If they had, they would not have had jobs till the end of the year because the cap would have been full. So what would they do? They would have looked stupid. They're getting a salary from the government and they're not doing anything. So they decided, okay, let's do some housekeeping internally till September, and then we'll render this decision. So it actually looks like they're doing work instead of drinking their Tim Hortons coffees and, going on Instagram and WhatsApp and chatting it up with their neighbors, right? So hang in there, Safa. TLHR Dubai, good evening. I'm a human resources consultant and I have Ontario company 2 years ago. How can I apply for work permit? I currently have business history visa. You can apply for the non-permanent residency program, TLHR Dubai, maybe the C10 LMI exam work permit, which is for entrepreneurs and self-employed. It does not lead to PR, but it can give you a work permit. That's it. Okay, there is no provincial entrepreneur program in Ontario. You'd have to invest, hire Canadians, prove that there's benefit to Canada, and then come in. If you're doing all that and you're not getting a PR, that's up to you. But I'm just putting it out there, folks. Okay. Samvir Kumar says, is any chance I get final result this year applied in 2022 June? If you're from a non-priority, I cannot comment on that, Samvir. If you're from a priority designated organization, yes, it's likely, not 100%, likely you will have a decision. And again, it depends how much processing they did for you end of last year. Okay. Pi cap. Oh, okay. If you're lucky, yes. If you're not lucky, no. So I can't, because Pi cap is not a priority. Okay. So, folks, I hope I've covered enough. No worries, Samvir. No need for a sad face there. Don't worry. You might, maybe you get through. Maybe you get through the cracks there. Again, folks, we cover over 20 programs in countries around the world. So if it's just a passport you're looking for, or maybe a residency that leads to citizenship without living in the country, like Portugal or Panama or Uruguay, right? Those are options you have as well. As everyone knows, there's been a few updates. Portugal is planning to extend their citizenship pathway to 10 years, but anyone applying today has the potential to potentially lock in the 5-year citizenship. It's not guaranteed, but it's out there. Malta made their program much easier and better and more flexible, which is part of EU, as a permanent residency program. So it's fast, quick, and cost effective. Okay, so 99% of all these startup visa applicants could have probably had their PR 3 years ago in Europe by now, right? No offense here. Panama, easy. You don't need to even live there. And you invest, you get an ROI on your real estate, and in 5 years you get a passport, right? Or you can just buy a passport outright from Caribbean islands or Nauru, depending on your budget, timeline, your nationality, and which countries you want visa-free access. Is it Grenada? Is it St. Lucia with their refundable bond program? Or is it Nauru, which has UK visa access with over 100 countries? Or perhaps it's Antigua, if you want some of the EU Schengen-free areas, right? Whatever it is, we're here every Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, you can reach out to us if you're a qualified applicant. Fill out the form, send us a message on WhatsApp, send us an email, go on our website, whatever you want, send it over to us. If we can help you and you qualify under any of our 20 programs, countries around the world, we will reach out to you. We will give you an assessment. We will customize a solution for you. And the beauty of it is we can compare programs because we're like a concierge for residency and citizenship. We will not push one program down your throat because it's making the most commission for us. We have a whole portfolio and we will match it. Kind of like investment advisors, right? No update. Sanvir, on December 2023, we cleared everything medical POF, but don't receive the PAL. So you're probably on the short list for a decision, Sanvir, this year. That's what I'm thinking, because you're at that last stage. You're like on the fence. So I think if they're starting to process in September again till December, you might be on that list, Santa's good list for IRCC to process you. Folks, we'll be back here next Thursday. In the meantime, we're always posting more social media content, including videos about different programs, right? And there's a lot of changes coming up to the Caribbean islands. Portugal, Malta just declared it, and wait for that Argentina passport that's coming at a cool and crisp $500,000, but it is a powerful passport. Okay, I already have a wait list of applicants who want that Argentinian passport. I don't know. Don't ask me why. But anyways, we'll be back. Great seeing everyone. And remember, don't apply for the sake of just applying. Apply with a plan. Make an educated decision. Okay, thanks. Nice to see you, Samvir. Safa, as always, TLHR Dubai, Dr. A32. Thank you for joining us. SAM and Villas Desai, of course. Take care. Tune in next week. In the meantime, you can always reach out to us, WhatsApp, email, website, whatever it is. Take care, folks. Have a good one. Bye-bye.